The old stone tablet sat in the museum for 300 years. Most visitors walked past it without a second glance. The writing on it was ancient, carved in a language that no living species could read anymore. Only scholars studied it, and even they argued about what it meant. Professor Kelvin was not human. His species, the Tauran, had blue skin and 4 arms. He spent his whole life studying old things. Today he stood in front of the tablet and traced the strange symbols with one finger. His student, a young Velic with red scales, yawned behind him. "Professor, why do we care about this old rock?" the student asked. Kelvin turned around slowly. "This rock tells us about the humans. Do you know who they were?" The student laughed. "Everyone knows that story. Humans were monsters from the old days. They killed everything. Then they died out. Good thing, too." "That is what most people think," Kelvin said quietly. "But what if they were real? What if they didn't die?" The student stopped laughing. "That's crazy. They're just stories to scare children." Kelvin shook his head. He pulled out a small device and scanned the tablet. Numbers and symbols appeared in the air. "This tablet is 12,000 years old. It describes a great war. The humans fought each other and almost destroyed their own planet. Then something happened. They just left. Left where? Nobody knows. The records stop. Every human station, every human ship, every human world went dark at the same time. For 12,000 years, nothing. Most species think they killed themselves. But I found something." Kelvin brought up an image. It showed a star map. 6 months ago, a mining crew found an old station at the edge of the galaxy. The station was human. Inside, they found technology we don't understand. And they found this. He pointed to a blinking dot on the map. A signal. Still active after all these years, the student leaned closer. "What does it mean?" "It means someone built that beacon to call something. Or someone." Far away, beyond the edge of the known galaxy, something massive moved through the darkness. The ship was bigger than a city. Its hull was black and covered in strange symbols. Inside, thousands of pods lined the walls. Each pod held a person in deep sleep. In one pod, Captain Tay opened his eyes. Red lights flashed around him. A voice spoke in his head, calm and mechanical. "Cryo-sleep cycle complete. Awakening, Commander. Mission status, beacon signal received." The pod opened with a hiss. Cold air hit Tay's face. He sat up slowly, his muscles stiff from the long sleep. Around him, other pods were opening too. Men and women climbed out, all wearing the same gray suits. They looked confused and tired. "How long?" someone asked. Tay looked at a screen on the wall. His face went pale. 1,047 years. The room went silent. A woman with short black hair walked over. Her name was Hana. She was Tai's second officer and best pilot. "Sir, that can't be right. We were supposed to sleep for 500 years maximum." "The beacon didn't activate on schedule," Tay said. He walked to a control panel and pressed buttons. More screens lit up. "It activated 6 months ago. Someone found one of our old stations. The Coalition?" Hana asked. "Must be. They've had 1,000 years to spread across the galaxy. They probably think we're extinct." More people were waking up now. Engineers, soldiers, scientists, all climbing out of their pods. They gathered around Tay, waiting for orders. These were the last humans. When Earth had nearly destroyed itself in the civil wars, the survivors made a choice. They would leave. They would go far away and learn to be better. They would sleep for generations and only come back if someone needed them. Tay pressed a button. "This is Captain Tay to all ships. Begin wake-up procedures. I want status reports in 1 hour. Engineering, check our drives. Medical, check everyone. Communications, scan for signals. We need to know what's happening out there." The ship hummed to life. Lights turned on in sections that had been dark for centuries. Down in the engineering bay, a woman named Nari stared at massive engines that hadn't run in 1,000 years. She hoped they still worked. In another section, Dr. Sora looked at biological samples. Before the humans left, they took samples of every species in the galaxy. Now those species might be different, evolved, or extinct. On the bridge, Tay sat in the captain's chair. The view screen showed space, empty and black. Hana took her seat at the pilot station. A young man named Jin sat at weapons control. He looked nervous. Jin was born on this ship during the journey. He had never seen Earth, he only knew it from stories. "Ambassador Yuna is awake," someone reported. A woman entered the bridge. She wore formal robes, not a uniform. Yuna was a diplomat, not a soldier. She looked at the view screen and frowned. So it's really been 1,000 years? Do you think they remember us? Some will, Tay said. We made sure of that. We left the stations. We left the warnings. We wanted them to know we chose to leave. And if they don't want us back, then we'll leave again. But first we listen. If that beacon activated, something is wrong. Something bad enough that our automated systems decided to wake us up. Lieutenant Wu, the tactical officer, brought up a new screen. Sir, I'm picking up signals. Lots of them. There's a war happening. Big one. The Velic Empire is attacking smaller species. The Coalition is trying to stop them, but they're losing. Tay and Yuna exchanged looks. How long has this been going on? Yuna asked. From what I can tell, 50 years. Maybe more. Billions dead. The bridge went quiet. These humans had left the galaxy to escape violence. They had spent 1,000 years in darkness trying to become peaceful. Now they were back and the galaxy was at war. Jin spoke up, his voice young and uncertain. Sir, what do we do? Tay stood up. He walked to the view screen and stared at the stars. Somewhere out there, people were dying. Not humans, but people. Living beings who didn't deserve to suffer. He thought about Earth. He thought about the wars. He thought about all the mistakes his ancestors made. We made a promise when we left, Tay said quietly. We promised that if we ever came back, we would be better. We would be protectors, not destroyers. He turned to face his crew. Wake up the fleet, all of it. We're going to answer that beacon, and then we're going to end this war. Hana smiled. It's good to be back. Around the massive ship, others began to wake. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of humans all opening their eyes after 1,000 years of sleep. They were myths. They were legends. They were the species that almost destroyed itself and chose exile instead. Now they were home, and the galaxy was about to remember what humans could do when they fought for something other than themselves. The refugee ship was dying. Its engines sputtered, leaving a trail of smoke and radiation. Inside, 200 people from 4 different species huddled together in fear. They had been running for 3 weeks. The Velic Empire wanted them dead because they refused to surrender their planet. Captain Melor was a Tauran, like Professor Kelvin. He stood on the bridge and watched the sensors. 3 Velic warships were getting closer. His ship had no weapons left. They had used everything just to escape. How long until they catch us? He asked his crew. 20 minutes, someone said. Maybe less. Melor closed his eyes. He had failed. All these people trusted him to save them, and he was going to watch them die. The Coalition was too far away. No one would arrive in time. Then the sensors made a strange sound. A new contact appeared on the screen. Not behind them. In front of them. Something had just appeared out of nowhere. Sir, we're being hailed, the communications officer said. Her voice was shaking. By the Velic? No, sir, I don't know what it is. The signal is strange. Old. Really old. Melor felt ice in his stomach. Old signals meant old technology. Old technology meant ancient defense systems. Sometimes those systems killed everything, friend or enemy. Put it through, a voice came over the speakers. It sounded human, but that was impossible. The voice was female, calm, and spoke in perfect galactic common. Refugee vessel, this is Lieutenant Hana of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. We see you're in trouble. We're here to help. The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at each other. Finally, Melor spoke. Human? That's not possible. Humans are extinct. Well, we got better. Now you have Velic ships chasing you. We can handle them, but you need to trust us. Cut your engines and drift. We'll take care of the rest. Melor had no choice. Do it, he told his crew. The engines shut down. The ship drifted in space. On the sensors, the Velic ships were getting closer. And closer. Melor could see them now through the view screen. 3 massive warships, each one capable of destroying his ship with a single shot. Then something happened that Melor would remember for the rest of his life. The space between him and the Velic ships rippled like water. 3 human ships appeared from nowhere. They were small, maybe half the size of the Velic warships. They were black and smooth with no visible weapons. They looked more like art than war machines. The Velic ships opened fire immediately. Red beams of energy shot through space. But the human ships moved like nothing Melor had ever seen. They twisted and spun, dodging every shot. It looked like dancing. Then the human ships fired back. Blue light streaked from ports that hadn't been visible before. The light hit the Velic shields and went right through them, Explosions blossomed on the Velic hulls. In 30 seconds, it was over. 2 Velic ships were dead in space, their engines destroyed. The third was trying to run. One of the human ships pursued it, moving so fast it looked like a blur. The Velic ship exploded silently. The lead human ship pulled alongside Melor's vessel. The female voice came back. "Refugee ship, you're safe now. We'll escort you to Coalition space. Just follow us," Melor found his voice. "Who are you?" "What are you?" There was a pause. Then, "We're the ones who left. We're the ones from the old stories. We're back now, and we're going to help." The news spread like fire through the galaxy. At first, no one believed it. Humans were myths. Everyone knew that. But then the videos appeared. Refugee ships had recorded everything. The strange black ships, the impossible speed, the way they destroyed Velic warships like they were toys. The Coalition High Council met in emergency session. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the Great Hall on the Capital Station. They argued and shouted. Some said the humans should be welcomed. Others said they should be destroyed before they became too powerful. Professor Kelvin stood before the council. He had been called as an expert on human history. "They didn't die," he said. "They left. There's a difference. From what we know, humans nearly destroyed themselves in civil wars. But instead of dying, they made a choice. They exiled themselves. They wanted to become better." "Better?" A Velic council member stood up. He was tall and covered in red scales. "Humans were killers, monsters. The old records are clear. They fought everyone, including each other. Why should we trust them now?" "Because they didn't have to come back," Kelvin said quietly. "They could have stayed hidden. They could have watched us die. But they heard our beacon. They saw the war, and they came to help. Or to conquer," the Velic said. "Maybe they waited for us to weaken ourselves. Now they returned to take everything." Before Kelvin could answer, the lights in the council hall flickered. Every screen lit up with the same message. "Request for audience. Human diplomatic vessel approaching station. They wish to speak." The council chamber erupted in chaos. Half the representatives wanted to let the humans dock. The other half wanted to activate the station's defenses. In the end, fear won over curiosity. They let the humans come. 30 minutes later, a small human ship docked with the station. Security forces lined the docking bay, weapons ready. The door opened slowly. 6 humans walked out. They wore simple gray uniforms with no weapons. They looked ordinary. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. They looked like any other species, except there was something in the way they moved. Something careful, controlled. Like a predator pretending to be prey. The leader was a woman. She was tall with long black hair tied back. She walked forward and bowed slightly to the security chief. "I am Ambassador Yuna. I speak for the human fleet. We request permission to address the council." The security chief stared at her. He had never seen a real human before. Only pictures in old books. You're really human?" Yuna smiled. It was a sad smile. "Yes, we're really here. And we have a lot to explain." An hour later, Yuna stood before the Galactic Council. The chamber was silent. Every representative watched her with a mixture of fear and wonder. She looked at each of them, making eye contact. Then she began to speak. 12,000 years ago, my people nearly ended themselves. We fought wars that killed billions. We destroyed our own planet. We created weapons that could crack worlds, and we almost used them." She paused, but we stopped. At the last moment, we made a choice. We chose to leave. We chose exile. We took our ships and our people, and we went beyond the rim of the galaxy. We went to the dark places where no one lives. And we slept. For generations we slept. While we slept, our machines kept us alive and taught us to be better. Why come back now? Someone asked. Because we left automated beacons at our old stations. If those beacons detected mass violence, mass death, they would call us. 6 months ago, a beacon activated. It told us that the galaxy is at war. It told us that billions are dying. So we woke up. We came home. The Velic representative stood. "You expect us to believe you came back to help? You who nearly destroyed everything you touched?" Yuna turned to look at him. Her eyes were hard. "Yes, because we know what we were. We know what we did. And we spent 12,000 years making sure we would never be that again. We're not your enemies, but we won't stand by and watch the Velic Empire commit genocide." "That sounds like a threat," the Velic said. "It's a promise," Yuna replied. "We're offering our help to the Coalition. Our ships, our knowledge, our strength. We'll fight beside you to stop the Velic, but we won't be your slaves or your weapons. We're equals, or we're nothing. The council chamber exploded with voices. Some species wanted to accept immediately. Others refused. The argument went on for hours, and while they argued, far above the station, more human ships arrived. One by one, they appeared out of the darkness, silent, waiting. The galaxy was about to learn that some myths were real, and some myths were more terrifying than any nightmare. The Coalition Council met for 3 days. They argued until their voices were raw. Some wanted to accept the human offer. Others wanted to reject it. A few even suggested attacking the humans while they still could. But everyone was afraid. Afraid of what the humans might do. Afraid of what might happen if they refused. Ambassador Yuna waited patiently outside the council chamber. She sat on a simple bench, her hands folded in her lap. Other ambassadors walked by and stared at her. Some whispered. Some pointed. Children pressed their faces against windows to see the mythical creature made real. A young Tauran girl approached her. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. She held a stuffed toy and looked up at Yuna with wide eyes. "Are you really from the old stories?" Yuna smiled gently. "Yes, I suppose I am. My teacher says humans ate people. Did you eat people?" "No, sweetie. We never did that. But we did hurt a lot of beings. We hurt each other most of all." Why? It was such a simple question. Yuna thought for a long moment. Because we were scared and angry, and we didn't know how to be better, so we had to go away and learn. Did you learn? We're trying. Every day we're trying. The girl's mother rushed over and pulled her away, apologizing. But the girl waved goodbye and Yuna waved back. Such a small moment, but it gave her hope. Maybe the galaxy could learn to trust them again. On one of the human ships, Commander Hyun stood in a strategy room. He was tall and muscular, with gray hair despite being only 45 years old. The cryosleep had aged some of them strangely. Around him, holographic displays showed the entire galaxy. Red marked Velic territory. It was spreading like a disease. "They've taken 30 systems in the last year alone," said Mira, the intelligence officer. She was young, maybe 25, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "The Coalition is losing. Their ships are good, but the Velic have numbers, and they don't care about casualties." Hyun studied the map. "What about their tactics?" "Standard formation warfare. Big ships in front, small ships in back. They rely on heavy shields and overwhelming firepower. Slow but effective." "Predictable," Hyun said. "They fight like they're still in the age of sail. Line up and shoot until someone falls down." "Will we fight differently?" Hyun smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "We always have. Humans don't do predictable. We adapt. We improvise. We find weaknesses and exploit them. That's why other species feared us. Not because we were stronger, because we were creative." On the station, the council finally reached a decision. They sent for Ambassador Yuna. She walked into the great chamber and every eye followed her. The council leader, an ancient being covered in blue feathers, spoke in a voice that echoed through the hall. "Ambassador Yuna, we have considered your offer. Many here do not trust you. Many remember the old stories. But we are desperate. The Velic are winning. Every day, more people die. So we accept your help. But understand this. We will be watching you. If you betray us, the entire coalition will turn against you." Yuna bowed her head. "We understand. We ask for nothing except the chance to prove ourselves. Give us a place in your fleet. Let us fight beside you, and judge us by our actions, not our history." The council leader nodded. "It is agreed. You will coordinate with Admiral Kelsor of the Coalition Defense Fleet. Your first assignment will be..." Alarms cut through the chamber. Red lights flashed. A young officer burst into the room, breathing hard. "Velic attack. They're hitting the station. 40 ships coming in fast." Chaos erupted. Representatives ran for the exits. Security forces rushed to battle stations. Through the windows, explosions bloomed in the darkness as Velic missiles hit the station's shields. Yuna touched her communicator. Yuna to Tai, the station is under attack. Are you close? Captain Tay's voice came back immediately. We're 3 minutes out, hold on. The station won't last 3 minutes, then we'll be there in 1. On the station's command deck, Admiral Kelso watched his screens in horror. 40 Velic warships against the station's defense fleet of 8 ships. It was a slaughter. His ships were dying. The station's shields were failing. He had maybe 2 minutes before the Velic started boarding. Then the sensors went crazy. New contacts appeared on the screen. Dozens of them. Human ships, materializing out of nothing all around the Velic fleet. They had been there all along, invisible and waiting. What kind of stealth technology is that? Someone whispered. Kelso had no answer. He just watched as the human ships attacked. They moved like sharks through water. Fast, precise, deadly. They didn't form lines or worry about formation. They just attacked from every angle at once. The Velic ships tried to respond, but they couldn't keep up. Human weapons punched through shields that had held against coalition fire for hours. Human ships dodged shots that should have been impossible to avoid. In 5 minutes, half the Velic fleet was destroyed. In 10 minutes, the rest were running. Captain Tay's ship, a massive vessel that dwarfed everything else, positioned itself between the station and the fleeing Velic. His voice came over all channels. Velic fleet, this is Captain Tay of the Human Expeditionary Force. You have 2 choices. Surrender and your lives will be spared, or continue fighting and be destroyed. Choose now. The Velic commander appeared on screen. He was huge, covered in red and gold scales. His eyes burned with hatred. Humans, you should have stayed extinct. We will crush you like we crushed everyone else. I was afraid you'd say that, Tay said quietly. The largest Velic ship charged forward, all weapons firing. The human ship didn't move, didn't even raise shields. The Velic weapons hit the hull and bounced off like raindrops. Then the human ship fired once, a single blue beam of light. It struck the Velic ship and cut it in half. The 2 pieces drifted apart, fires burning in the vacuum. Any other ships want to try? Tay asked. The remaining Velic ships fled. They jumped away so fast they didn't even form up properly. In 15 minutes the battle was over. The station was saved. Not a single coalition ship had been destroyed. The human fleet hadn't even taken damage. Admiral Kelso sat down heavily in his chair. He was shaking. He had been a military officer for 30 years. He had fought in a dozen wars. He had never seen anything like this. These humans. They were everything the old stories said. And worse, or better. He wasn't sure which. Ambassador Yuna appeared on his screen. Admiral, the station is secure. We'll maintain a defensive perimeter until your shields are repaired. Send us your wounded. Our doctors can help. Kelso found his voice. Ambassador, what you just did, how is that possible? Yuna's expression was sad. We had 12,000 years to prepare, Admiral. We used every second. Our technology, our ships, our training. We built them all for one purpose. To make sure that if we ever came back, we could protect people instead of destroying them. Today was the first test. I hope we passed. You more than passed, Kelso said quietly. You terrified everyone who watched, including me. I know, and I'm sorry, but terror is sometimes necessary to save lives. The Velic needed to see what we can do. Now they'll think twice before attacking again. Later that night, in a small room on the station, Yuna met with Captain Tay and Commander Hyun. They reviewed footage of the battle. Hyun looked pleased. The Velic are sharing the video everywhere. By tomorrow, the whole galaxy will know we're back. And they'll be more afraid than ever, Yuna said. Let them be afraid, Hyun replied. Fear keeps people alive. Tay shook his head. Fear also makes enemies. We need to be careful. We wanted to help, but we just demonstrated that we can destroy the strongest military in the galaxy without breaking a sweat. Every species in the coalition is going to wonder if they're next. So what do we do? Yuna asked. Tay looked at the stars through the window. We keep our promise. We fight the Velik. We protect the weak. And we prove, through every action, that we're not the monsters from the old stories anymore. It's going to take time, maybe years, maybe generations. But we have to try. Somewhere in Velik space, the Empire's War Council watched the footage over and over. They saw their ships destroyed. They saw the ease with which the humans fought, and they made a decision. The humans were a threat, perhaps the greatest threat the Velik had ever faced. The war was no longer just about conquest. It was about survival. Either the humans would fall, or the Velik would. There was no middle ground. The War Council sent orders to every fleet, every commander, every soldier. Find the humans, study them, learn their weaknesses, and when ready, strike with everything. The galaxy held its breath. Humans had returned, the myths were real, and everyone from the smallest refugee to the mightiest empire wondered the same thing. Were these human saviors? Or were they something far more dangerous? Only time would tell, and time was running out. The Kron Nebula was a graveyard. Thousands of dead ships floated among the colorful gas clouds, remains of battles fought over the last 50 years. Now it was about to see another battle, the biggest one yet. The Velik Empire had gathered 300 warships. It was half their entire fleet. They were done playing careful. They wanted to crush the humans and the coalition in one massive strike. Intelligence said the humans had only 40 ships. The Velik liked those odds. Admiral Vec stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the nebula on his screens. His scales were dark red, almost black, marking him as a warrior of the highest rank. "Where are they?" he demanded. "Sensors show the coalition fleet at the edge of the nebula, sir. 20 ships. The humans are with them. Only 20 ships to defend?" Vec laughed. "They're even more desperate than we thought. Prepare to attack. We'll sweep through them like dust." On the human ship, Captain Tay sat calmly in his chair. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. The bridge was dark except for the blue glow of screens. It looked more like a library than a warship. Lieutenant Wu studied the tactical display. 300 Velik ships, sir. They're forming up for a standard assault. Line formation, heavy ships in front, predictable, Tay said. Have they spotted our other ships? No, sir. The nebula is interfering with their sensors. They only see the ships we want them to see. Tay smiled. Good, let them come. Jin, are your fighters ready? Jin was at his station looking nervous but determined. At 22, he was the youngest wing commander in the human fleet. He had trained his whole life for this moment. All fighters ready, sir. 30 pilots standing by. Remember your training. Fast, unpredictable, and don't engage directly. You're there to confuse and disrupt. Yes, sir. Hana turned from her pilot station. Captain, the coalition ships are asking when we're going to run. They think we're crazy for staying. Tell them to trust us, Tay said. And tell them when we give the signal they need to scatter. Every ship goes a different direction into the nebula. Can they do that? They say they can, but they don't understand why. They will. The Velik fleet moved forward like a wall of metal and fire. 300 ships, engines burning bright against the darkness. They came in perfect formation, exactly like their training manuals taught them. Admiral Vec felt confident. These humans might have won a few small battles, but they had never faced the full might of the Velik Empire. Range in 30 seconds, his tactical officer reported. All ships, prepare to fire on my command, Vec ordered. 20 seconds. The human ships just sat there, not moving, not even raising shields. 10 seconds. Still nothing. Were they frozen in fear? 5 seconds. Vec opened his mouth to give the order to fire. Then the nebula exploded with ships. Human vessels appeared everywhere. Above the Velik fleet, below it, inside the formation. They had been hiding in the nebula's sensor-distorting gas, invisible and waiting. Not 40 ships, 80, 100 more. The humans had lied about their numbers. All ships scatter, Tay ordered. The coalition ships broke formation and dove into the nebula in different directions. The Velik tried to track them but couldn't. The gas clouds confused their sensors, and then the human ships attacked. They didn't attack like normal ships. They didn't form lines or fire from a distance. They dove into the Velik formation like birds attacking a swarm of bees. Fast, aggressive, chaotic. They fired and moved and fired again before the Velik could respond. Explosions bloomed across the Velik fleet. Break formation. Engage at will, Vec shouted. But breaking formation was a mistake. The Velic ships had been trained to fight as one unit. When they scattered, they lost coordination. The humans picked them apart. Jin launched his fighter from the human carrier. Around him, 29 other small craft shot into space. They were tiny compared to the warships, but they were faster than anything the Velic had. Jin led his wing straight into the heart of the Velic fleet. Missiles and laser fire filled space around him. He twisted and rolled, his training taking over. Don't think. Just fly. His fighters weaved between the massive Velic ships, firing at engines and weapon ports. They weren't trying to destroy the big ships. They were trying to disable them, blind them, make them helpless. And it was working. Velic ships started bumping into each other, their sensors jammed by human technology. Some fired on their own allies by mistake. On his flagship, Admiral Vec watched his fleet fall apart. This wasn't a battle. It was a nightmare. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They appeared, struck, and vanished into the nebula. His ships couldn't track them, couldn't hit them, couldn't even find them until it was too late. We need to retreat, his second officer shouted. We will not retreat, Vec roared. We outnumber them. So a human ship appeared directly in front of the flagship. It was small, maybe a tenth the size of Vec's vessel. The flagship opened fire with everything. Dozens of weapons, enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The human ship's shields flickered but held. Then it fired back. A single shot. Blue light. It struck the flagship's main reactor. The lights went out. Everything went dark. Emergency power kicked in, but it was too late. The flagship was dead in space. On the human bridge, Tay watched the battle unfold. It wasn't really a battle anymore. The Velic fleet was in chaos. Half their ships were disabled. A quarter were destroyed. The rest were trying to run. All ships cease fire. Let them go, sir. Wu looked confused. We can destroy them all right now. I know. But we don't need to. Let them run home. Let them tell their empire what happened here. Sometimes the story of a defeat is more powerful than the defeat itself. The remaining Velic ships jumped away as fast as they could. They left their disabled vessels behind. They left their admiral behind. They just ran. In 30 minutes, the Battle of Crown Nebula was over. The Velic had lost 200 ships. The humans had lost 3. News of the battle spread instantly. The coalition celebrated. The smaller species felt hope for the first time in years, but the larger species felt something else. Fear. The humans had just defeated the most powerful military in the galaxy without even trying hard. What else could they do? While the fleet regrouped, Corporal Bora led a ground team to a Velic-occupied planet called Terra 9. The Velic had enslaved the native population 5 years ago. They used them as workers in mines and factories. Bora's mission was to free them. Bora was 30 years old, small and quick, with short hair and cold eyes. She had been a soldier before the long sleep, and she was a soldier still. Her team of 12 humans landed their shuttle in the darkness outside the main slave camp. Remember, she said to her team, we're not here to kill. We're here to rescue. Only fire if you have to. They moved through the camp like ghosts. The Velic guards never knew what hit them. One moment they were standing at their posts. The next they were unconscious on the ground. No shots fired. No alarms raised. The humans had learned long ago that stealth was often better than violence. Bora opened the slave barracks. Inside, hundreds of thin, frightened beings stared at her. They were a species called the wren, small and covered in gray fur. They had never seen a human before. We're here to rescue you, Bora said softly. Can you walk? An old wren male stepped forward. Who are you, humans? We're with the coalition now. We're going to get you out of here. Humans? The old wren's eyes went wide. The legends? The warriors from the old times? Something like that. But right now we're just people trying to help. Can you organize everyone? We have ships waiting. It took 2 hours to evacuate the camp. The Velic never even knew it happened until the morning. By then, Bora and her team were gone, along with 800 freed slaves. They did the same thing on 5 other planets that week. Then 10 more. The Velic couldn't stop them. Human soldiers were too fast, too well-trained, too efficient. Back on the coalition station, Ambassador Yuna met with a delegation of freed slaves. They wanted to thank the humans. An old wren female held Yuna's hands and cried. We thought no one would save us. We thought the Velic would work us to death. Yuna knelt down to look her in the eyes. You're safe now, and we'll make sure you stay safe. That's why we came back. The old wren studied her face. The stories say humans were monsters. But you're not monsters. You're something else. We were monsters once, Una said quietly. We hurt a lot of people. We hurt ourselves most of all. But we learned. We changed. Now we're trying to be better. Trying to protect instead of destroy. Thank you, the old wren whispered. Thank you for coming back. In Velik space, the Empire's War Council met in emergency session. They had lost the Battle of Kron Nebula. They had lost face. Worse, they had lost the fear that kept other species in line. If they couldn't defeat the humans, their empire would crumble. The Supreme Commander, an ancient Velik covered in battle scars, spoke in a voice like grinding stone. The humans are too strong. Their technology is beyond ours. Their tactics are unpredictable. We cannot defeat them in open battle. Then what do? Another council member asked. We negotiate, the Supreme Commander said. We end this war. We cut our losses before the humans decide to come for our homeworlds. It was the first time in 500 years that the Velik Empire had considered peace. The humans, back for less than a year, had done what the Coalition couldn't do in 50 years of war. The peace talks took place on a neutral station called Haven. It was old and small, floating at the edge of Coalition space. The station had been built for moments like this. Quiet places where enemies could meet and talk without killing each other. Captain Tay walked through the station corridors with Ambassador Una at his side. They were going to meet the Velik for the first time as equals, not enemies. Behind them, Lieutenant Wu and 2 other officers followed as guards. They wore no weapons. Una had insisted on that. Are you sure this is safe? Wu asked quietly. No, Una replied. But if we want peace, we have to show trust first. Even if we're scared. They entered a large room with a round table. On the other side, 5 Velik stood waiting. The Supreme Commander was there, his scales dulled by age but his eyes still sharp. He looked at the humans for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone. He bowed his head slightly. Captain Tay, Ambassador Una, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Una returned the bow. Supreme Commander, we're glad you reached out. This war has gone on too long. Too many have died. They sat at the table. The Supreme Commander spoke first. Let us be honest. We cannot defeat you. The Battle of Kron Nebula proved that. Your technology is superior. Your tactics are beyond our understanding. If this war continues, you will destroy us. We don't want to destroy you, Tay said. We never did. Then what do you want? We want the killing to stop, Una said. We want the Velik Empire to release the species you've enslaved. We want you to return the territories you've taken, and we want you to join the Coalition as equals, not conquerors. The Supreme Commander's expression darkened. You ask us to give up everything we've built, everything we've fought for. We ask you to stop building your empire on the suffering of others, Tay said. His voice was hard now. You've killed billions. You've enslaved entire species. You've spread terror across the galaxy. That has to end. Not because we're forcing you, because it's the right thing to do. And if we refuse, Tay leaned forward, then we'll stop you, not by destroying your species, but by making it impossible for you to continue. We'll free every slave. We'll protect every species you threaten. We'll be a wall you cannot pass. And eventually, your empire will collapse from within. The Supreme Commander was silent for a long time. His advisors whispered among themselves. Finally, he spoke again. You offer us a choice that is not really a choice. But perhaps that is fair. We offered the same to many species. Now we understand how they felt. This isn't about revenge, Una said softly. This is about building something better. The galaxy is big enough for everyone. We don't need empires. We don't need conquest. We just need to work together. The peace talks lasted 3 days. In the end, the Velik agreed to release all slaves. They agreed to return conquered territories. They agreed to join the Coalition. But they asked for one thing in return. They wanted the humans to promise never to attack Velik homeworlds. They wanted to know their families would be safe. You have our word, Tay said. We didn't come back to commit genocide. We came back to prevent it. The treaty was signed. News spread across the galaxy like sunlight after a storm. The war was over. The Velik Empire was becoming the Velik Federation. The slaves were being freed. Peace was coming, but not everyone was happy. Some species in the Coalition were angry. They wanted the Velik punished, not forgiven. They wanted revenge for all the suffering. Ambassador Una had to address the Coalition Council again. I understand your anger, she told them. Believe me, we understand. Humans killed each other by the billions once. We know about rage and revenge. But we also learned something important. Revenge doesn't bring back the dead. It just creates more death. If we want peace, we have to be willing to forgive. Not forget. Never forget. But forgive. A Tauran representative stood up. It was Professor Kelvin, who had first discovered the human station. Ambassador, many of us are grateful for what you've done. You saved us. You ended a war we were losing. But now we're afraid. You're so much stronger than us. What's to stop you from becoming the next empire? What's to stop you from deciding the galaxy should be ruled by humans? The chamber went silent. Everyone wanted to hear the answer. Yuna looked at each of them. Nothing stops us except ourselves. And that's what we spent 12,000 years learning. How to stop ourselves. How to control our own nature. We could become an empire. We could rule the galaxy, but we won't. Because we've seen where that path leads. It leads to destruction. We'd rather be protectors than rulers. But how can we trust that? Kelvin asked. You can't, Yuna admitted. Not yet. Trust takes time, so here's what we propose. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. We'll integrate some of our people into coalition worlds. We'll share our technology slowly, teaching others how to build what we build. We'll serve alongside you in the defense fleet, not above you. And if we ever break that trust, you have every right to unite against us. After more debate, the council agreed. Humanity was given a seat on the council. But it was one seat like every other species. Not special, not privileged, equal. 6 months later, Hana stood on a hill overlooking a valley. She was on a planet called Terra Verde, on the edge of coalition space. The planet was beautiful, covered in blue grass and purple trees. The air smelled like flowers. Behind her, construction crews were building the first permanent human settlement in the galaxy in 12,000 years. Jin walked up beside her. He had left the military to become a teacher. He was going to teach young aliens about human history, about Earth, about the mistakes humans made and the lessons they learned. It's beautiful here, Jin said. It is, Hana agreed. I never thought I'd live on a planet again. I was born on a ship. I expected to die on a ship. Is it strange? Being back? Everything is strange. But good strange. We're home, Jin. After all this time, we're finally home. Far away on the coalition station, Captain Tay prepared to leave. He was returning to the deep dark beyond the rim of the galaxy. Not all humans wanted to stay. Some, like Tay, believed their place was out there, watching, waiting, ready to return if needed again. Ambassador Yuna came to see him off. You're really going? The galaxy doesn't need all of us here, Tay said. It needs some of us to keep watch, to make sure no other threats come from the dark. That's what the expeditionary fleet was built for. Will you come back? If you need us. But I hope you won't. I hope the galaxy learns to protect itself. They hugged goodbye. Yuna watched as Tay's ship departed, vanishing into the stars. She felt sad but also hopeful. The humans were splitting up, some staying, some going, but all of them working toward the same goal. Peace. On a Velic world, Corporal Bora helped former slaves rebuild their homes. The Velic civilians watched her work confused. They had been taught that humans were monsters. But here was a human, covered in dirt and sweat, helping their former enemies. A young Velic child approached her. Why are you helping us? The child asked. Bora wiped sweat from her forehead and smiled. Because someone needs to, and because we're all part of the same galaxy. We should take care of each other. But we were your enemies. You were. But the war is over now. Now we're just people trying to live. That's enough. Years passed. Human settlements grew on a dozen worlds. Human technology spread through the coalition, making ships faster and shields stronger. Human soldiers trained coalition forces in new tactics. Human doctors shared medical knowledge that saved millions. Slowly, the fear faded. Slowly, trust grew. Professor Kelvin wrote a new book about humans. Not the mythical monsters from old stories. The real humans. The ones who made terrible mistakes and spent 12,000 years learning from them. The ones who came back not to conquer but to protect. His book became required reading in schools across the galaxy. One day, Yuna was teaching a class of young aliens about human history. She told them about Earth, about the wars, about the exile, about the long sleep. A small Tauran girl raised her hand. Ambassador, what's the most important thing humans learned? Yuna thought carefully. We learned that being strong doesn't mean being cruel. We learned that having power means you have a responsibility to use it wisely. And we learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from a fight. We walked away from the galaxy because we knew we weren't ready to be part of it. Now we're back, and we're ready. Will you leave again? I don't think so. But if we need to, we will. Because we're not afraid to make hard choices anymore. That's what makes us different now. On the edge of the galaxy, Captain Tay sat on his ship and watched the stars. His fleet patrolled the darkness looking for threats. They found none. The galaxy was at peace. But Tay knew peace was fragile. It needed to be protected. So he stayed in the dark, watching, waiting. His communications officer called to him. Sir, we're detecting something. Unknown signatures. Not from this galaxy. Tay stood up and walked to the view screen. In the distance, something moved through the void. Something big. Something that didn't belong. He smiled grimly. Wake up the fleet. Send a message to Ambassador Yuna. Tell her we might have a situation. What should I tell her specifically? Tell her that humanity didn't come back to rest. We came back to protect, and it looks like the galaxy needs protecting again. The officer sent the message. Across the fleet, lights came on.